Welcome to the Acoustic Shoppe channel. We're coming to you from Springfield, Missouri, and you can also check us out on our website, theacousticshoppe.com. Today we're going to tell you why this $399 man, this one right here, is doing so well and punching so far above its weight.
Before we tell them all about the reasons they're going to love this mandolin, John, or might love it, we're going to start with the specs. And like you mentioned in the intro, it comes in at a price of $399. It has a solid spruce top with a laminate mahogany back and sides, a maple neck, with a nut width of 1 3/16, so a slightly wider nut width than the standard Eastman.
A little more comfortable.
A little more comfortable. Also, it has a adjustable ebony bridge on there, so you still can adjust the height of your action very easily, as well as an ebony fretboard. They give you 3 finish options on this, as you can see here. You got the natural, the classic, and then the gold burst finish. They come with a gig bag, a very nice kind of blue-colored gig bag. The binding on this has like this black and white on the front, back, and sides. Tuners on this one, John, they don't list exactly what they are. I think those are Pingwell, but they're just a plate geared tuner.
They look like the same tuners that they put on the 300 series to me.
And that does also have the cast tailpiece that Eastman uses on all the mandolins, so you are getting a cast tailpiece, which is normally better than some of those less expensive stamped out ones. Especially on a beginner instrument, they don't rattle in the top, and it's easier to change your strings on that. A lot of the instruments under $400 will have a laminate top, and that it's durable, and it's more affordable. They can do press tops that way, so you can get an arch top without having to do any carving.
Correct.
But tone-wise, it really kills a lot of that tone. It just makes that top very rigid and doesn't give a lot of resonance to it. So a solid top, that's a big thing. One way they were able to do that is they kept that flat or bent top where it just kind of starts out, then bends, and then keeps flat. So they didn't have to do any carving, but still were able to use a solid piece of wood. I think that makes a big difference. We've talked about this in the past. Most people know our channel that we are we are the top Eastman guitar and mandolin dealer in the world combined. And we love the craftsmanship of Eastman, and they, just like when they introduced the PCH guitar line, they didn't cut corners that led to quality issues with the instrument. They're still doing some quality craftsmanship at a lower price point, and they did a few things to make that a viable option in this price. Playability was the thing that stood out to me the most. It is an oval hole mandolin with that flat and deep body on it, so it has a different tone than you're going to get out of a carved top, A-style or F-style.
And we have to point that out first and foremost. This is not going to sound the same as most of your A-style and F-style mandolins. It is an oval hole. It is a flat top mandolin. It has its own character, but man, are these things loud.
They're loud, project a lot, which when you're first starting out means a ton, because you get one of those other instruments that are difficult to play. They're not going to project. But one of the biggest things that stood out, and we're going to mention that, is playability. These have been set up out of the box. We do some tweaking of them when we get here, make sure the neck has the right amount of relief. But in an inexpensive instrument, normally the action is very high and difficult to play.
Especially on mandolins.
These ones are set up very well where the entire way out the neck. Like all the way up there.
This is honestly...
It notes very clear and easily.
This is honestly the only mandolin that we have ever had consistently having correct setups. Now, again, there are other mandolins on the market at this price point that every once in a while you can end up with a great one. But it's very inconsistent, and this is the only one that we have seen where playability all the way up the neck has been easy. It's well set up. It's as well set up as their higher-end mandolins. Or as most people's high-end mandolins. Last thing that we want to talk about is that value for the money. Again, $399. This is not the least expensive mandolin on the market, but I believe it's the least expensive mandolin that I would consider a great playing instrument, easy to use. There are no other mandolins, in my opinion. Again, Jeremy, you may or may not agree with me, but I have had the opportunity in working in that shop to see so many different mandolins, and the inconsistency is always the biggest issue, and some of it can't be fixed. I see a lot of mandolins at this price point with bad neck sets, have uneven frets, uneven playability, and at $399 you kind of almost expect it.
It's kind of a mixed bag where you don't know what you're going to get unless you play it. If you have a reputable dealership, there are some really good options. You can get the Lore's Honey Creek in an F-style for the same price. But again, you need a dealer that's going to kind of go through those and make sure they're set up well and consistent and kind of doing some quality control on that end of it. Where these so far have come in, where every one of them we've gotten in have been set up where I would like it to be for any new mandolin student that I would have.
Absolutely.
For someone that's not a beginner, this makes a great second mandolin, or another one just for a practice mandolin to have in your room that you're not too worried about. That laminate back sides gives it a lot more strength and durability.
Sure.
So you can take it camping, you can take it on road trips and have it in your vehicle. Not as concerned about it as you might be for a more expensive all solid wood instrument.
Absolutely.
But it also does have a different tone than you might have without, say you're into the bluegrass style and you got an F-style mandolin with F-holes, but you just want something that sounds a little different for Celtic, but you don't want to spend $800 to $1,000 for it. This makes a really good... Kind of gives a little bit more of that Celtic tone.
I was really getting into that.
That you might not want to make a big investment to get. So I think that's another good option for people for under $400. John, now we're going to get to our patent pending rating system, trademark reserved, all those things. We're going to go through number one, tone out of 1 to 5. Tone wise, you got to go into this with like price point, but also like style. This is an A style oval hole mandolin, bent top. So with that really deep body, so it's got a different tone than you don't expect to get that carved tops.
So are we going to still kind of factor that in, or are we basing this mostly off of other $400-ish instruments?
I guess I can't help but factor it in a little bit in my rating, but I'm still going to give it on that. I get your point. Out of that $400 range, where would I rate this one? And evenness of notes, like all the way across it. In general, I'm still going to give this probably a 4. I'm going to give it 4.2 out of tone. Not the tone I'm really used to, but for this price point, does a really good job.
You know what? I'm going to I may lean a little bit higher. I think there's some really good characters in here. Obviously, Bluegrass chop, it's not designed for that, but you're strumming and doing open chord stuff. There's a lot of warmth and depth in here, and I really think for a beginner one, so much more volume. I think so many people struggle with mandolins when they're starting out because they tend to be really thin and not a whole lot of volume. And when they're trying to learn and get volume and tone, so I think this is a big advantage. I'm going to go with a 4.5.
All right. Then we're going to go to setup and playability. We've talked extensively in this video already about what we liked the most was the setup and playability. I'm going to give this, for this price point, a 5.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is the top of my ratings.
You can't. You don't see another instrument in this price point that is set up as well as this, and that's what makes the biggest difference.
And it's set up as well for its intended audience. Like a bluegrasser might like a higher action so they can really get that big chop. No. This is set up for the beginner, and it's set up perfectly for that beginner. So
exactly, I agree. I'm going to give it a 5 as well.
How about build quality, John? I'm going to let you go first this time.
You didn't trust me, huh? No, there's not much to complain about here. I mean, we're getting a cast tailpiece. We're getting a more, like I said, I just find that just rounding off those edges, anybody who plays a beginner mandolin knows usually those are very sharp, and to have that rounded and buffed out, have a thin bottom plate, you know that as well. Yep. These are details that are, normally ignored. Again, it is easier to build a flat-topped mandolin than it is a carved top, but still, I don't see any issues here. The inside is clean. That oval hole, gives us the opportunity to look inside here. Everything looks clean. It does not look trashy at all, so I'm going to give it a 4.7.
I agree with you. The build quality, we've talked about this with Eastman, they're not really cutting corners on it to get it out the door. They're still building them very well. The neck joints all look very tight and clean. Build quality in general on this thing, I think they did an excellent job in this price point.
You don't see that dipped finish or any of that kind of
It's got to be one of the best build qualities that I've seen in this price. So I'm going to give it a 4.7.
See, you're matching me now. Aesthetics here, Jeremy. I personally love the Gold Burst. I think that color is great. Again, it's oval holes and bent tops and flat tops. Not my thing. Body. I think all of us kind of look for the F-styles and curls. I mean, we know that here in the shop. Everybody wants an F-style. They usually can't justify the expense difference in a beginner mandolin, so this is a tough one. I personally would much prefer more of a traditional look to the mandolin, even though this is a traditional look. So this one, I'm going to actually go a little bit lower. I'm going to give it a 4.
And this is where I mentioned earlier, like the lower might be a good option for somebody that's wanting to trade off some of the aesthetics of an F-style, full gloss finish, really beautiful looking instrument for some of the extra setup and playability stuff. That's something many people might weigh. So aesthetics, I do think this is a little bit more plain looking.
But I still like this.
I still think they did a good job for it. In that price range, since you have some F-style full gloss mandolins on the market, I'm going to mark this one down to a 3.8. As far as sustainability goes, John, we do normally plant one tree for every Eastman because they do follow, their sourcing of wood follows the FSC standard. So we will plant one tree for every one of these sold.
Yeah, that's a really good thing. Overall value, guys, this is where I think there's nothing else like it. And I'm going to state myself, I don't usually come out there and give this is the best, but I do think this is the best. At its price point, I don't think anything would be a better mandolin to start with than this mandolin. Again, you will upgrade. Don't get me wrong. I promise you'll want to upgrade. But when you do, the cool thing about this is I don't think you'll want to get rid of your PCH. I think this is an instrument that you will keep around as something else to play. Like you said, leave it out on the stand when you have your nice one that stays in a humidified case or whatever happens to be. Take it with you where you want to go. Teach somebody else that wants to learn to play. Mandolins become real popular right now, so you'll probably have a friend.
Me, I think.
Yeah, that's probably it. You'll have a friend or somebody's like, man, I've always wanted to play a mandolin, and this is something that you could easily give them, where those other starter mandolins that we see on a regular basis, not so much. So again, I think that the overall value of these are very, very high. They are well built, easy to play. I'm going to go back to my 5-star rating.
I will come in very similar to what you were saying there. I think for a beginner instrument, it's one of the best value mandolins out there. Your mileage may vary, where if you get to try out a few different brands side by side and find that one that just really stands out of the crowd, you may find one that just blows it away with the full gloss finish, F-style. But for me to just give a blanket statement over a series, the ones that I've played, which have been about 10 or 15 of these so far, have been very consistent. So that way I can just say, if you go out and try one of these out, you're going to end up most likely with a very good one. Overall value based on that, I'm going to still give it about a 4.9. Like I said, you may try one back to back. Doesn't mean you can't find another brand that's going to play better and sound better and look better. But in general, I've been very impressed with the consistency of these. Well, all right, guys, I hope you got a little bit of some information out of the new PCH series from Eastman for their mandolins. Way back when I was about 20 pounds lighter, we had done a video that told you the entire 300 series from Eastman.
Way less
so you can get
zebra
a
cakes.
little bit more of an idea of what their carved top and carved back and side mandolins look like, and the whole series, how they kind of stack up against each other. If you want to compare that one to this mandolin and see what you think, we've got the link to that right about here somewhere. Thank you, guys. Please like and subscribe. See you next time.
Right here somewhere.
This general vicinity.